Good morning, vinyl community, crime community. I'm here to read a chapter of my Manson book, The Soul for Sale, the manufacture and marketing of the Manson myth. Crime pays the Manson industry. I'm in prison for entertainment. My life was a joke for money. Manson. Don't you realize that the media maybe took over the judicial system in our country? Roman Polanski and Charlie Rose. As every stage magician knows, creating the necessary suspension of disbelief in a spellbound audience requires the performer to maintain strict secrecy about how the tricks are pulled off. The show of grand illusions that are official Manson myth has had a long and successful run, but decades after its debut, the legend that was once so persuasive has lost some of its power to enchant. No doubt, Manson was hypno-eyed monster whose sinister state turned innocent flower children into mind-controlled killers will continue to be a boogeyman for the simple-minded and easily fooled for generations to come. But once the more alert in the audience had seen the hidden strings, the smoke and mirrors, the cards up the sleeve, the frightening mirage that once inspired oohs and ahs will fail to convince. To effect this final act of disillusion, we must direct our attention to the proverbial map behind the curtain referred to as the advent of our journey, the media which did so much to promulgate the Manson myth. Since convicted prisoners have very few legal options available to them, Manson was fair game for what foolishness writers, filmmakers, and musicians wished to predict on him. Books and media, Manson wrote, have lived about Charlie Manson, all the walking dead who feed on the other people's lives because they have too much fear to their lives their own. The last of the 7 looking glasses of the half of the Hall of Mirrors reflects the shifting image of Manson and commodity. Manson compared to the media to the mother rocking her unruly children to sleep, lulling them and indoctrinating them with fearful bedtime stories. One of the leaf motifs of the social critique was his claim that the masses are kept in their state of obedient delusion and their addiction to entertainment. This was already true enough in an age ruled by newspapers, radio, movie theaters, and TV. The permanently plugged in and entertainment to death 24/7 digital generation is even more of a willing victim of nonstop media programming than the previous era could have imagined. Many Aboriginal tribespeople believing that allowing one's voice or image to be recorded by technology steals the soul. Well, my soul's still here. But as Manson saw it, it was the various authors, filmmakers, and musicians and other performers who exploited and distorted his name and his image, who sold their souls free from the perspective of one who had more than half of his vampire life vampirized by the hostile mainstream media and equally mangled up by the supportive, sympathetic alternative media, Manson observed. One of the world problems is movies and rock and roll stars. They will do anything to play, act their lives of, and then cheat and claim the effort of others, steal their music, have them locked up in nut wards. My whole life has been played off by actors and such. We tried to bring Atwa into mind's play for survival of life, but the people sold it out for greed and money systems and destroyed their worlds. They will end up with no soul, no trees, no wildfire, no air or life. It's just a dream, and God is the mind of the way we see, hear, taste, and feel. Try to understand all of this, and only one can fix Earth. Who precisely are the unnamed they who Manson accuses of this act of identity theft? After all, the false Manson myth, as we know it, totally didn't fully rise and form from the public imaginations like Athena from the brow of Zeus. On the contrary, it was contrived by the small group of originators who had very specific pragmatic reasons for replacing facts with fantasy. We can trace the evolution of this immensely popular and profitable fabrication from the moment of its conception in the attorney's consultation room at the women's jail at Sybil Brand Institute. We can watch it all whipped into shape by the pros on the staff of the Los Angeles Times. And we can hear witness to its full flourishing in the courtroom in LA's Hall of Justice, where it was used as a blunt instrument to encourage the state-sponsored execution of its subject, Charlie Manson. From the successful theatrical run, we can follow the myth unstoppable march of mendacity into the bookstores, magazine stands, movie theaters, television, pop music emporiums, concert halls, home computers, clothing shops, and undiscerning minds of the public who have paid millions for the privilege of being deceived. Manson contends that the legal establishment and the mass media worked hand in hand in their common cause of hoodwinking the public. The state that Judge William Keene, who took away Manson's rights to defend himself in court, was rewarded by a grateful entertainment industry with his well-paying job as a judge in the popular divorce court on TV. Yeah, my mother was a regular on that show. Even the bailiff in the Manson's trial, Rusty Burrell, often called upon the disciplined Manson in court, was hired to serve as the bailiff in People's Court, another real-life legal entertainment. And accusing the media of complicity in the courtroom cover-up, Manson is so much as saying that Hollywood's hidden hand pulled the legal strings in the Hall of Justice. Absent in what follows is a chronicle of the cacophonous cavalcade of musicians in almost every conceivable genre who have sought to exploit Manson's rising and falling rock as a shock symbol. I leave the exploitation of the ephemeral phenomenon to others. For those who are interested, Manson's presence in recent popular music was given a cursory, if biased, look by the late Tommy Udo in his 2002 overview of the subject, Charles Manson, Music, Mayhem, and Murder. Sophie Noel and Christopher Lawrence have collaborated in a far more comprehensive study of Manson's influence in various forms of youth culture, music, in their book, The Rock Guru. The last classification about the most frequently discussed aspect of the Manson in the media, contrary to popular opinion, Manson was not at all flattered by the most misguided and fickle attention the rock industry's producers and consumers paid him. He had already had his music, image, and ideas ripped off by the Beach Boys without much in the way of compensation or credit. It is understandable that Manson was less than enthusiastic about the latter-day larceny of his mystique and even the wholesale appropriation of his name. By the music industry's current crop of corporate tools, Manson wrote with special rancor of the Marilyn Manson and all the bloodsuckers who feed off my efforts. For the most part, Manson's music is yet another wrinkle on the Che effect, the deep-skinned pubescent toying with knee-jerking symbolism, largely bereft of understanding. The exhaustive survey documenting every permutation of Manson's image in popular culture since 1969 would require another volume. The Manson myth turns up everywhere. From Don McLean's cryptic end of the 60s anthem, American Pie, that's right up the VC's alley, isn't it? To the satiric animation series South Park. It has been covered into opera, John Moran's The Manson Family, avant-garde jazz, Freddie Hubbard's Fenridy for Sharon Tate, and even African-American gangsta rap. A group called the Manson's Family released down with it, Helta Skelta. Coming in full gamut would take us far from the main focus of this current study and creation of a cover-up disseminated by the mass media, sometimes knowingly, but more often simply for mercenary purposes. I will limit the follows to the examination of the Manson myth as it manifests in books and films. Manson frequently voiced his contempt for those whose knowledge of the world is derived only from books they've read. This critique is particularly pertinent in the way his own life was misinterpreted by the publishing industry. Charles Manson the world thinks it knows is all about is largely a literary construction, a mental monster fabricated from the ink on a page. To understand how and why this fictional character called Charles Manson was featured in a series of widely read books was created, we need to take a closer look at the authors who gave the figment life. The origins of most legends lost in the mists of time, but we can give credit where credit is due to the imaginations responsible for the horror story that becomes one of the 20th century's best-selling works of fantasy. if the Manson myth as we know it today could be legally copyrighted as intellectual property, it would be registered as a co-creation of Paul Caruso and Vincent Bugliosi, based on an original story by Susan Atkins and additional material by Ed Sanders and Linda Kasabian. Endless variations on a theme have followed, and it's what Fanciful Five, who earned whatever karmic repercussions are pending for perpetrating this illusion, will begin with the persuasive silver-tongued mastermind who really created Helter Skelter, the pillar of the Manson myth, accepted by conventional wisdom. And that's the next chapter for the next day. It's going to be about the bug, of course. The bug cashes in on You Saw the Trial. Now read the book and see the movies. There are so many books and movies and TV shows about this. This will take a week to read out, okay? That's going to involve Sinatra and half the friggin' shows at Universal Studios and all these writers. There must be 30 books in here. So anyway, we're going to leave this for another day. We're going to say thank you to the vinyl community. And if you like and find my work interesting at all, I would love to earn your prescription.